Yes, and we are live here today at the DPB show. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. Man alive. Who'd have thunk it, right? As I shared with you on Sunday, I'm live uh, in studio uh, doing this now Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. We're going to start out doing an hour both days. You can and subscribe to all of the platforms, the social media platforms. You see it scrolling across the bottom there. That's YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. I will be live on all of those platforms Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. Uh, Wow, let's just kick it right off. When we talk about live versus recorded, we also have to look at what's currently happening around the world, right in front of us. Everything that we see and hear and do is now being automated. And in some instances, they deemed it artificial intelligence. Because even this voice that you hear of mine can be duplicated and recorded and imitated and broadcast as if it was me. But let me tell you, it is me today. It is DPB here at the DPB show. Thank you once again for going on this journey with me, because it is a journey, right? Sometimes we don't know where it is that God is taking us, and we have to be faithful and obedient and trust in Him that He is going to guide and lead us to the promised land. I mean, that unequivocally is ultimately our goal. Um, I I know that to be the case. But getting back to artificial intelligence and, things like that we're hearing now, terms that are used or phrases used such as cybersecurity, the replacement theory. What does all of that mean? I hear it today on the headliners are talking about it, whether it be Glenn Beck or Dan Bongino. I know Levin doesn't dabble into that area or arena very often, but I think you're going to hear more and more about this. Folks, and I don't have to tell you, it's everything that we do and say, everything that we hear is being recorded. I mean, they are truly following us, as the old saying goes. We agreed to that when we signed on to technology, when we signed on to the world that we live in. It is refreshing when I do meet people that will share with me that they are not on social media of any form. However, most of them still are carrying a smartphone around with them. Um, Most of those folks are still opening up some type of media source, and ultimately, if you're doing that in the digital technology day, it's being tracked. We just heard the story last week about AT&T and T and all those that are subscribing to AT&T, yours truly included. I happen to be in contract with them until, let's see, look at my timepiece here. That would be September 8th. And at that point, I will be leaving AT&T. Spent many years with Verizon, jumped on to AT&T. Like many of you, I was also with Nextel, the push to talk. And little did we know, as convenience took place in our lives, that ultimately convenience can come at a price. And that's what we're going to cover here today. I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody all about somebody. And I think it's important we continue to keep that theme of telling the world what is ahead and what is behind. Ultimately, if we don't understand where we've come from, then how are we truly going to arrive where we want to go? The stories of the artificial intelligence and cyber security and the replacement theory are demonstrated on a daily basis. Today, we awake this morning, Tuesday morning, and we hear accounts of our very own United States Senator from Illinois, Senator Dick Durbin, is on the Senate floor appealing to you and I to finally concede that things are going south with our armed services, that they're not able to retain or recruit the numbers that are needed in order to make sure that we are ready at the ready. Now, I know that many of you saw this coming, right? This is the old vantage point of the Democrat Party where they create the chaos, they create the problem, and then they try to create the solution. They went through many years now of trying to redefine what it means to be the United States military. They have taken it to a level that now most people say, hey, I don't think I want to be part of that. And I agree. Based on some of the reports, when you look at everything that you're seeing in the culture, whether that's in our public school system, any institution, our public school system, law enforcement, government, uh, you're seeing the exact same thing in our armed services. So therefore, our morale, the ability to recruit people, especially young men, to go and be part of that has become very difficult. I mean, who uh, tells their young son or young daughter to go and join a military that possibly isn't going to end well? I sure wouldn't. I have a son-in-law who is part of the armed services. In fact, just recently it was mentioned to him that, you know, that there could be a deployment in the future for him. And you're hearing that more and more, especially under this administration, what is referred to by many as the Biden regime. President Biden and his administration, they they truly enjoy, I believe, being the world's policeman. Dick Durbin, obviously, has now called for anyone who is coming across the border to be able to be in our armed services as long as they pass a series of tests and go through a background check. I have to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on the clock because since this is all so new, I've got to make sure that I keep the clock. The training wheels are off. I'm going at this thing full bore and I'm not going to let up. We're going to continue to bring you this and we're going to continue to perfect it and build upon it. But Dick Durbin is doing what some of our state representatives here in Illinois decided to do earlier this year. They put forth legislation that allowed non-citizens. Now think about this. They kind of greased the slopes. They started with really facilitating the sanctuary cities and the sanctuary status of our state. Therefore, they opened the door for the ability to have non-citizens become law enforcement officers. In fact, they put forth a bill that said such, that non-citizens in good standing could be hired by municipalities to enforce the law. Now, who are those non-citizens? Well, they run the gamut from so many different countries. In fact, countries who aren't favorable to the United States of America, whether that be number one, China, number two, Russia, or even number three, Iran. There are so many people that are coming across the southern border, and that's what Dick Durbin was talking about. And that should concern everyone because this all blends in. The replacement theory, cognitive security, artificial intelligence, all of this blends together. And should we be afraid of it? I do believe that anytime you see something like this come on so sudden, so quickly, and when I say quickly, I look at the period of 3 years since Biden took office. None of this was even mentioned under the Trump administration. This is how quickly, in 36 months, they have totally flipped this thing around. And that's what we're seeing. A United States senator standing on the Senate floor and professing to the world that um, he would like to see non-citizens as part of our military. Now, the interesting part about that is most of those non-citizens that they're talking about are young men. And when you look at the makeup, who are those young men truly going to be representing? You and I, the Constitution of the United States or the government? And that's the scary thing that we need to continue to be vigilant about. They have no desire to keep a constitutional republic in force. In fact, you hear it often, especially from uh, the left side of the aisle, the Democrat Party. They continually refer to us as a democracy. And that's not what our government is. Our government is a constitutional republic. We base our entire law and order on a constitutional document, a Bill of Rights, a Declaration of Independence. That is what governs us. Ultimately, it's we, the people, that govern us because the document itself is just parchment paper. It was put down just to basically be a guiding light to us, a document we can point to. That's why Benjamin Franklin said when he left that conference, we've given you a constitutional republic if you can keep it. And that is my concern. Can we truly keep it? And in a day of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and, you know, the replacement theory, where we're trying to replace everything. We're trying to replace the way we educate our students. We're trying to replace the form of government we have. We're trying to replace so many things, and we're doing that through the means of social media. And here I am bringing you a message from social media. It's trying to keep this thing in perspective. And ultimately, that is going to be on us, you and me. Hey, if you're just joining me here at the DPB show, I so do appreciate it. Um, we're going to be doing this Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 live. And then ultimately, it's not ultimately, we will be recorded on Sundays still. So if you were used to tuning into Cities 92.9, you can still do that on Sundays from 1 to 3. We're going to do a compilation of the live shows. That's what you're going to be hearing. So in case you've missed anything here, you can always catch it there. And so I encourage you to do that. And we're going to just continue. But as I was saying, these are the things that we need to be vigilant of. And myself, I need to be vigilant of looking at that camera. That's going to be something hard to do is I'm not used to talking to a camera. I'm used to watching the screen over here because it's going to launch into a break and it's going to start bump music's playing. That was very foreign to me today to come into studio and to get prepped to be on air and then not to hear my bumper music because it kind of you get in the rhythm of things. You hear your bump music, you say, okay, it's go time, and you kind of go with the flow. This is all free falling. This is definitely a Tom Petty hit. I'm free falling today. I'm loving it. Look at this, looking good, DPB. Hey, I appreciate that, Brad Worth. You know what? I've got this. Kat says over here, she says AI scares me. She is so correct. Let's see here. We got Jenny Miller, Conservative Truth. Thank you, DPB. There are a lot of liberals in the Republican Party, and we need to replace them. Thank you for tuning in. Amen above. Gotta love it. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. And hey, listen to that. Listening, Stephanie Trussell had Stephanie on the show Sunday. Stephanie was giving us the uptick to what's happening in her life. She's a delegate for Vivek Ramaswamy. She had mentioned, she said, how can you and I, DPB, one being for Vivek, one being a delegate for Trump, happen to be or still be cordial and be on the radio together? Well, you know what? That is another topic that I do want to hit today, but I think I've beat up on the AI thing. I think I beat up on the cybersecurity thing. I think I've beat up on the replacement theory. Be vigilant. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. Get into the news cycle. I really enjoy the Gateway Pundit. I know anytime the liberal media refers to the Gateway Pundit as fake news or misinformation, stay tuned in. They're usually bringing you a lot of truth. I encourage you to definitely look that up on Truth Social. Like, subscribe, Truth Social. Obviously, Rumble. Plenty of programs are dealing with that. Gateway Pundit's just one of them. Just the News. John Solomon does a bang up job of bringing good, sound uh, information that is factually based on what is going on out there, things that you're not going to hear from the Washington Post, the New York Times, and all the other industrialized media complex, because they're not designed to give us the truth. They too are part of the artificial intelligence, part of the cognitive security of leading us down a road that we don't necessarily want to be on. Got it. Let's look at this here. Background checks processes are shady partners with data integrations and data that lack integrity, centralized logistics, management by government, state employees with the shady systems and process. Be cautious in data analytics. Experts start the propaganda and the rules engine. Oh, without question, they manipulate everything. They measure everything. That is what a world will, in their eyes, looks like. They want to sit somewhere and command control and be able to manipulate the miles that you drive in your automobiles. They want to continue to push towards dictating how much fuel you use in your home, mostly electricity. They'd like to see us do away with natural gas. That is the big push. That's why you started hearing the rumblings of that. But you know what? Once again, I've beat up on that enough. I don't want to continue to beat up on it. I've got a lot of content to get to. We've got Dick Durbin, who has had a real bad week. I mean, our very own United States Senator Dick Durbin. Not only did he propose from the Senate floor this whole replacement theory of utilizing non-citizens in our military, but he refuses to allow the Epstein logs to be published. Which why in why are we still even having this discussion? This is 3 years later, which it's the irony of this is all happening underneath the Biden regime, which yours truly, as you know, being part of the Stop the Steal. I don't believe I called Joe Biden the vice president still. Vice President Biden was even indeed vice president under the Obama administration, because all of this is up for question now. When you start looking at all the pieces and parts that have been assembled over the past 20 years, and you're seeing it come at you at a rate that our friends on the other side of the aisle like to refer to as conspiracy theories. Well, I'm conspiracy theoried out, right? I'm just dealing with conspiracy facts now, because ultimately I don't know what else to think. I'm not saying that I hook, line, and sinker on all this stuff that's out there, but it forces me, as it should force you, to ask a lot of questions, to continue to push into it, to say, then what? What's next? How did we get here? Where did we come from? I was mentioning earlier, and, you know, when we recount how we ended up where we're at in Israel today, it is fascinating. I know that Pastor Timothy James Farrell, the Victorious Life, who usually comes on, well, he does. He comes on right before. He doesn't usually come on. He does come on at 12:30 on Sundays. He covers a lot of this. He's doing a series right now called Ishmael, Israel, and Emmanuel. And it's fascinating to find out the history behind all of these things that we see manifesting themselves in today's times. As the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun, and there truly isn't. Kat says, "What is a delegate?" That's a good question, Kat. Sometimes I get ahead of myself, and if I do, by all means, that's why we're here at the DPB show. I am stumbling, fumbling, and rumbling. That's where I'm coming from. Stumbling, fumbling, rumbling, bumbling to get to the truth, to uncover some of the corruption and the lies that are being told to us. So, what is a delegate? To answer your question, a delegate is the sophisticated thing. Is it's a representative. it's a non-elected representative. It's somebody that is appointed, and then they are put on the ballot. They are a contingency of people. They're a delegation. Short, that's what delegate means. Delegation of people who side with a candidate. So, as I said, Stephanie Trussell is a delegate for Vivek. I am a delegate for Trump. There are delegates for DeSantis and Nikki Haley. And every state. So the interesting thing is, yesterday wrapped up the filing period for our candidates here in the state of Illinois. It went from November 27th through the 4th. You, as high, the offices that are the highest offices for the state filing are Congress people. So the 17 congressional districts, candidates filed for office there. And it goes on down to county board. The presidency, however, their deadline for filing their petitions and their packets, their candidate packets with the federal government isn't until January 4th and 5th. At that time, they have gone into each one of these states and each one of these congressional districts within each one of these states, and they've chosen 6 delegates, 3 delegates, 3 alternates. Those delegates will actually represent them in at their respective conventions. For the Democrats, that convention will be held in Chicago, Illinois. Obviously, there's a lot of pushback about that, and people are up in arms about that. For the Republican side, it's in Milwaukee, and it happens in July of 2024. And at that particular convention, we will select the nominee as the delegation goes. Now, there is primaries up to that point, and the primaries will basically decide who indeed the nominee is. The interesting thing about it is I haven't heard much about the delegation for Illinois for Biden, which leads me to believe, are they truly assembling a delegation for Vice President Biden here in Illinois or in any other state? That is the fascinating thing that I think we will continue to uncover as we go forward, because there are so many questions. If you're just tuning in to the live DPB show, that's true. Live, not Memorex. This is a live version of my show that no longer is happening on Sundays from 1 to 3. It will be a recorded version of that, but you can always join me here at any time, because all of this content that we're going to start bringing you at the different platforms of Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook will be there cataloged. So at any time you can come back, refer to it, the topics that we cover. You can uh, catch up with something. And always, I love the chat, because the chat is where I get a lot of my questions, which is what we all should have at this time, is questions about the process. Hey, I know that I had something here that I wanted to share with you because it was breaking and it was interesting. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but today they were questioning. They were questioning on the House floor. They had a member of the DOJ, and she happens to represent the affirmative action portion of that, right? The DEI portion. That's her sole purpose, is to be there and have an understanding of all the things that are being uncovered. And there happens to be a lawsuit, and many of you might have heard of this lawsuit. It's called Missouri versus Biden. Well, needless to say, this particular person who has been steeped in the position of representing the DOJ, and you would think that she would have an understanding about what is going on, had no idea that there was a lawsuit. And to me, that is just mind-boggling. I can't even put my head around that. And I don't believe that's necessarily true. I'm not saying that she's lying under oath. I think that sometimes it's blissful ignorance. I think sometimes it's just you choose selectively what you're willing to listen to, or to research, or to tune into. And I found that interview today of her, And knowing that she holds a position in the federal government, in the Department of Justice. And if you're with the Department of Justice and you don't even know about a case that involves everything there is about what your responsibilities are as an appointed official, then we really have problems. In fact, we have problems beyond problems. But ultimately, their goal isn't the United States of America. Their goal is not America first. Their goal is to rename our government into a democracy, which only leads to something other than a democracy. It then bleeds into a form of socialism. We've heard about democratic socialist, and socialism leads into Marxist. Marxist leads into communist. And ultimately, there are plenty of people out there that believe that is where we should head as a country. That's what climate change is about. That's that's what the open borders are about. That's what energy, or I should say, the lack of energy independence is about. It's every aspect of increasing the size of the government and decreasing the rights of individuals like you and I. Hey, I'm going to take a quick little break here, just because I need to get a drink of water. The other thing is, I got to check my camera because it looks like I'm a little blurry. I do appreciate you joining us here today on the very first weekly live of the DPB show. The DPB show will continue to be broadcasted um, from 4 to 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. I will be in studio. The studio over time might change a little bit. For now, this is what we're doing. We're going to continue to build upon it. Like I said, I appreciate you joining us on this journey. I will be back here shortly after a brief little break, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, if it does look like I've taken off the sweatshirt, it is because I have taken off the sweatshirt. I was getting a little heated here in studio. I have the door closed, and it might be like a sauna in here, but also it could be because DPB is doing something that he's not used to doing, and yeah, the juices are flowing. I'm feeling the heat. The heat is on, as the song goes. My wife and many of my friends will tell you that I somewhat live in lyrics. It's just who I am. It's something I love. I love music. I love to entertain. If you guys get a chance and you want to hear me sing, believe it or not, yours truly does sing. I don't usually announce this. In fact, this is the first time I'm announcing it here live on the DPB at the DPB show. On cities, or on, I should say, cities is behind me on cities 92.9, but Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. But yeah, coming out and hear me sing. I something that just came up here in the last few months. My daughter Hannah, many of you know, as I've shared, has relocated and is no longer here in Illinois, and she was the lead singer in our worship band at church. And so, with her absence and her leaving, I took over for her. Um, Thank you, Kat, for cluing me in. See, I've got my producer still out there, Kat Peterson, remotely. She's saying the camera looks good. So it just might be me getting overheated in studio. And therefore, I thought it looked fuzzy. But there you go. And Kat probably says, "You're doing great." Thank you, Kat. Uh, but as I was saying, come out on Sundays. 10 o'clock, we start at the Tabernacle. That's where you can hear Timothy James Farrell, Pastor Timothy James Farrell, live rather than recorded. Uh, all by all means, I have to tune in multiple times to Pastor Timothy James Farrell at the Tabernacle, whether because he catalogs everything that he does uh, via the Tab TV and Facebook, and he utilizes social media to get this important message out, especially the message series that he's doing right now. Ishmael, Israel, Emmanuel. But as I was saying, Hannah left. I stepped into the praise and worship band, and now I am part of the praise and worship band at the Tabernacle, singing a new song unto the Lord. Let your song be sung from mountains high. That's what I try to do. Um, I'm not saying that I do it well. I'm just saying that I do it. And that brings me to this. I don't know how well this is going to turn out because I put my faith and trust in God. This is something new for me, covering content via my own live presentation during the week. I did get in a rut. I did get accustomed to it was Sundays, it was live, it was bump music, it was all automated, it was ready to go. And now I find myself out there without the dinghy, the life raft. I'm just out trying to figure it out. And you're helping me do that. I so do appreciate everybody that has joined us today on the Facebook Live or the Rumble or Twitter or YouTube um, here at the DPB show. Uh, you know what? It's fascinating to think back 7 years ago when I started this journey that I would be behind the microphone and covering content that's important, I think, to all of us. But I think I'm also going to provide a different type of spin on it, or a different perspective. I shouldn't say spin. That's the old spin room was Bill O'Reilly. I don't. Hopefully, spinning isn't what I want to do. I know many of you have joined me over the years because you want honest, open discussions. In the movie A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. You know, I want the truth. Yes, I can. I think all of us can handle the truth. We want to know where we're going, where we've come from, and how we're going to get to ultimately the place that I believe we all envision in our heads, the promised land. There's something beyond this life that we live. The story that was just really struck me is this was just yesterday, December 4th. And this is part of Revolver News. 20 FBI agents dressed in tactical gear just raided the home of a peaceful J6er. I'm honored to be part of that contingency. J6er. That was me. I was there. I was not in the Capitol. In fact, most of the people there that day never crossed the threshold of the United States Capitol. The amount of people that were at the Ellipse Center between the South Lawn of the White House and the Washington Monument, I believe could number as high as 1 million people. And we're talking about less than 1,000 people have been arrested or charged with some charges. Obviously, if you're criminally trespassing, you're criminally trespassing. But this person that they are talking about, that they raided his home, a peaceful J6er because of his online associations. The excessive force or the excessive use of force against January 6th victims has reached levels that are so absurd that they've now in the realm or they now fall in the realm of North Korea. It's clear that the regime is trying to send a message. And I love it when they refer to the Biden administration as the regime, because that's truly what it is. The weaponizing of our agencies, the weaponizing of the federal government against the people, a sovereign people. That is really what we should be concerned about more than anything else. When they talk about existential threats, I know that Joe Biden likes to refer to the mega extremists as existential threats. Many of them say, in fact, I think James Carville came out the other day on Bill Maher, and he said that the biggest threat to the United States is evangelical Christians and those of us that are following um, our faith and practicing our faith, that suddenly now we are the biggest threat to the United States of America. But I digress. Let me go back to this article. It's clear that the regime is trying to send a message to anybody who dares to dissent. If they step out of line, meaning they don't bow down to the regime agenda, the full force of the United States government will come crashing down on them and their families. It's a KGB like tactic that is very powerful and rather off putting to Americans who will appreciate, who Americans who still appreciate and love freedom. This blatant abuse of power was on full display recently when 20 FBI agents dressed in tactical SWAT gear conducted a raid on the home of a peaceful January 6th participant who had simply walked through the open door at the Capitol. The man was charged with a misdemeanor, so why did the federal government deploy such overwhelming force against this poor soul? According to the authorities, they justified this approach based on associations this peaceful man had online. It is just your associations and people that you choose to interact with. Are you kidding me? Is this where we've come? And it is. It's not, is this where we come? It is where we are at. It's the world that I call the land of make believe, because it doesn't matter what reality is. They have created their own reality of what transpired on J6. We know that not to be true. I mean, it's documented now. They tried to hide everything. You know, even the J6 Unselect Committee tried to do what Hillary did with their 33,000 emails. Tried to bleach bit them, smash the blackberries, cover it up, hide it. You know, because they hate to be exposed to the light. And that's what I believe is going to continue to happen. It's no different than Trump, right? The indictments haven't lessened his numbers. The indictments have actually risen his level of popularity, which is fascinating. And I think it has too. Look what happened to Adam Kinzinger. What happened to Liz Cheney? Their popularity didn't go up. In fact, it went to the can. And Liz Cheney, of course, is trying to make a comeback. Comeback Liz. How's she going to do that? She's going to go to the Washington Post, that really exquisite journalistic paper, and she's going to tell them that voting for Trump is going to lead us into a dictatorship. So the first 4 years wasn't going to lead us into a dictatorship. It would be the return of Trump that would lead to a dictatorship. You can't, like I said, some of this stuff you just can't make up. These folks are not being honest with us. They're not telling us the truth. The cover up is on. And it's going on not only in the Democrat Party, but it's going on in the Republican Party. I happened to be at an event last night. And if you're just tuning in here at the DPB show, that is true. It is at the DPB show live on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. Drive time. I know it was tough to make a decision on when we would do our lives Tuesday and Thursday. And I thought 4 to 5 was a good time, right? I understand there's other headliners who are very accomplished in doing what I am doing. And I don't even consider myself in their league. I just consider myself in your league. I want to be the one talking to you from 4 to 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays live here at the DPB show, because I'm going to bring you content that I see through the course of the day, and you guys might see something. I mean, there might be something that you that comes up um, that that you'd like to comment on. Please do that in the chat. I'm going to throw one up real quick. Illinois is using as test cases for their projects implementing regime agenda. Both parties, politicians gain from it all, and that's what I want to talk about, Eferberg. I want to talk about that, Esther. There you go. Because that's the most important thing. I was trying to grab another comment here. Oh, look at that. That's my beautiful wife. She's tuned in too to the live. Yes, the regime certainly is sending a message. While it's terrifying, God is definitely bigger. And that is true. And God is bigger than all of it. And as I started telling you, I went to an event last night for a political event. And, we can sit back as conservatives and point our fingers at the Biden regime and everything that's happening with the left. I don't admire them, but I will say this. You got to give them credit where credit's due. They've operationalized their party and everything that they do. They don't miss a beat. In fact, I saw something, and I don't think I can dig through it real quick enough without looking really awkward at doing it. But James Wood on Twitter said it best. He said, you know what? Look at what the Democrat Party has done. They've run the table on the border, on energy, on climate, on the educational system. They have literally run the table. And I'm getting to the point because of this event last night. What has the Republican Party done? I don't even know. And he makes this comment. Does the Republican Party even want the responsibility of leading this country, leading this nation, leading this constitutional republic? Do they even want to be a constitutional republic? Or are they satisfied with being what the left calls us, a democracy? That's the scary thing, too. But as I was at this event last night, just listening to fellow Republicans explain where we're at as a party is fascinating. You talk about brokenness. Brokenness is this. When things aren't going right, you continue to do the same thing over and over again, as if you're going to somehow rise above the brokenness. No, I think that it's very biblical of how you overcome the brokenness of life, your sinful nature. You repent. Repent means to surrender. It means to turn away, to turn around, actually, and go in a different direction, not in the same direction. And that's what I found fascinating about last night's, and I have an itch on my nose, and it's really difficult here. I should have a cough button. It's a itch your nose button. I need one of those. But that's what I found fascinating about listening to this conversation last night that I was having with a particular gentleman who is, I think he's a Republican. I'm pretty certain he is, but it's hard to kind of tell based on his perspective because he has this uncanny ability to continue to repeat things over and over again, expecting different results. And maybe someday that will work for him. Maybe it has worked for him. I don't know. But I know that the Republican Party has to do better. We have to do a better job. You know what? I'm getting close to the end of my first live. Basically, these things are going to last a little under an hour because we have to still be able to weave them into a show for Sundays from 1 to 3. And you can still catch a rerun, I should say, or the best of, or whatever you want to call it, on Sundays from 1 to 3 on Cities 92.9. There's no secret that it's right behind me if you're wanting to know where to tune in. But I hope that you come back, and I hope you encourage your friends, and I hope that you get other people involved in this movement because I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody that saved my life and saved my soul. And I think when we know the truth will set us free. And what we see all around us in this land of make believe, the land of confusion, the land of lies, that's not reality. That's not what God created us to be. I know that we can be better. I want to be the best version of myself. That's why I stepped off of the ledge and decided to do this, because I could have said, "You know what? I'm done. My show on Sundays after 3 years is no longer live." It was a good run. I started 7 years ago, as I started to say earlier, running for state office against a very formidable force and an establishment candidate of the Republican Party, one of the best retail politicians I've ever seen, uh, at least in the state of Illinois. I haven't experienced politicians in other states from a perspective of running against them, but I started it 7 years ago. And losing 2 elections for state rep and then losing an election for town council, which came shortly after the insurrection, um, I've learned a lot. I ended up with a show on Cities 92.9, a radio show. I never thought I'd be in radio, but I am. It's what I am doing now. And like I said, I was encouraged. I could have given up. I could have said, "You know what? It's over." The live show was about all I could do, but I think it's time to continue to tell you, to voice to you what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. And I so appreciate everyone who's joined in on the chat. I encourage you to like, subscribe, continue to send people to at the DPB show. Um, yeah, it's going to get better. The best is yet to come, as I say. I'm never satisfied with any one show that I've done. I always think that the best show is the next show. And so, with that, I am going to sign off of my live for today. Appreciate all of you. Let's see if we can get to any comments here. I know that many of you, once again, thank you for the comments over in the chat room. I so appreciate it. You know what? Here, I am going to end on this. This is a good way to end, because I heard this from Pastor Timothy James Farrell. I never engage my critics, and I can tell you that's easier said than done, which is the old cliche, and most things are. And the reason I think that we don't engage our critics is that you're never going to convince somebody of, you know, I love the saying, you can never say the right thing to the wrong person, and you can never say the wrong thing to the right person. Thank God I have more people here that are the right people than the wrong people. So, Pastor Timothy James Farrell says, don't engage your critics or your enemies. You know what? I think it's sound advice. Pray. Pray for those who are your critics and your enemies. We're called to love. We're not called for anything else but to love. God loved us, and we are to love others. Hey, until the next time, once again, encourage you all to go out there, like, subscribe at the DPB show. That is at the DPB show. Um, I will be back Thursday from 4 to 5 here. Once again, appreciate all of you. Keep it real. I love you. And until Thursday, I'm signing out.